Dha te te dha dha te te dha ga te na ke na dha dha te 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 dha dha te te dha ga te na ke na dha te te dha dha te te dha ga te na dha dha. So it's on the up, the second section of the qaida. So it's not an even development, but an offbeat placing of the phrasing. So that's something that I think he introduced into the qaida world of the tabla. So I will play a qaida a little bit later, but I'm just wondering if there's another question. There are many rules to qaidas that need to be discussed, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But if there's another question, let me know.
Dire, dire. Everybody's like, dire, dire.
No questions? Oh,
Dire,
okay.
dire. No, there's a lot of questions.
Oh, lots of questions. Okay, one question.
Dire, dire. Everyone wants to know about it. How do you play it? How do you practice it?
Well, थोड़ा धीरे धीरे चलिए तो धीरे धीरे आ जाएगा. Dhira dhira is a very interesting phrase for the tabla. I mean, that's the one thing that it requires for you to do this, use this part of your hand, and therefore all this that you're doing and all this that you're doing suddenly takes a back seat and comes forward with this. So how do you exert same force playing the dhira dhira? I have often said that this dhira dhira was first explored in detail by the tabla maestros of Banaras Gharana, and it started kind of in Farrukhabad, but it was mainly developed in Banaras, and which found its way through Banaras into Bengal, and then in Bengal some great tabla maestro. I think the first time I heard an interesting dhira dhira which got my attention was Pandit Kanai Datta ji, who played dhira dhira. Very interestingly, I was a concert in Ravindra Sadan with a concert hall in Kolkata with Nikhil Banerjee ji, and that's where I heard it, and I said, wow, this is interesting. And then later on it was developed further, and the great maestros like Pandit Swapan Chaudhary ji has made dhira dhira very popular, and he's one of the finest exponent of that particular phrase, and so is Anindo Bhai, and now most tabla players have followed these two, and people like Shubhankar Bhai and Vikram Bhai and so on. They have all excelled in being able to play dhira dhira. I'm still trying to figure out what is the best way for me to play dhira dhira, because my hand was set in a different manner, a pakawaj manner, and so I have tried to ask people like Anindo Bhai and Sopanji and all, and what I've been told is throwing of the hand is an important thing. My father also told me that, but in a different manner. He said throw your hand and let the wrist do what it wants to do. So something like what Ustad Amir Hussain Khan Sahab used to do. So there's a station of dadrik and then dhridik stands out and then comes back in the phrasing in terms of dynamics. So that is there in Bengal now, or also in Banaras where Pandit Anokhelal ji and all used to play. It was more even and smooth. So they used to throw their hands that way, out. So it was more like playing reverse titer. And emphasis was on that as opposed to this, which is what I learned. So playing with emphasis here is harder, but playing out, it is much easier. So a lot of the relas did not just go dha tere ke tak dhere dhere ke tak. It went dha tere ke te gere dhere 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 ke tak. So putting it out, so, and then cupping of the hand. So this doesn't become more prominent, but that becomes prominent. So these are elements of the dhira dhira which were very beautifully combined together in Banaras, and then later on by famous tabla players of Bengal. And so if you can try and find a way to be able to put all that together, then it is possible to dheere dheere get your dheere dheere together.
That's like 100 questions.
Okay, one more question and then we'll go into qaidas, back to qaidas.
Okay, a lot of people are asking about riyaz. How do you focus and how do you get the most out of your riyaz?
How do I focus on riyaz? Well, okay, so I turn the television on to my favorite channel, watch some nice Western movie. My father used to love Westerns, and play. No, that's not true. So, what is the main goal of being able to practice? The goal is not to be able to play like your guru or like your favorite tabla players or etc. etc. But to be able to take all that information and be able to try to transpose it into your hands. Now, having said that, it is going to be natural that you're going to be impressed or inspired by tabla players who don't necessarily all belong to one gharana. They belong to different gharanas. So, your playing then will have to be in such a way developed so that you are able to take elements of all these different gharanas and put it together. That means somehow combining different techniques into one way of playing. And so that's a tough ask. So my idea was to try to do that. And so I found that just playing exactly the way my father taught me to do, which is how I started off, I needed to develop my hands and my fingers and the way they talk to each other in a more detailed manner, so that it includes all types of combinations and permutations that are thrown out by visiting different gharana styles. And so that means developing both hands to be equally talkative with each other. Equally talkative. So that's what I try to do. So sometimes I start with like just a takeout and try to develop both hands individually and then combining together. Having said that, the qaida is one element that makes that possible, to combine these two hands and make them work at a very equal pace and equal level and contributing equally. So that's something that we'll get to. But like for instance, watch out. Sorry. Now doing that, doubling the maya. Going back and forth between them, going from 8 to 6, 6 to 8, or 6 to 4, 4 to 3, 3 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 6, and so on, and making those combinations. Again, same with the tabla. So, first straight, then, and then, and then 4. So anyway, so these are starting things. Then one of the things that I saw, you know, Ustad Zakir used to stay in our house when he came to Mumbai at some times. I'm talking about late 50s, early 60s, around that time. Because we were living in a place called Mahim, which was then the last boundary of Mumbai, and then there was a police checkpoint, and then the suburbs. So he would stay, and then I saw him that he would practice every day. This was an amazing thing to watch. A great maestro like him still practiced, did not just rely on the idea of, oh, my hands are ready now. So he would do more like a Shiahi come Chati practice. So so this is one of the things that he would do. So I've learned to do that as well. So just to get this loosened up and these guys kind of get used to it, and then combination and permutations of that. So and then from dha on the kinar to go to the maidan. So the idea is to get used to your hand feeling the siyahi, because when you're playing phrases like tere kita, dene gina, dene tere kita, and so on, the siyahi part tends to stand out, and so when you learn to do this, you learn to figure out how to be able to dynamically control that. So you know you can. That's why you hear like not. So you learn to control all that stuff. So that was another kind of practice. When I sat with my father though, at home, it was never like, okay, let's just practice or so on. He always had me playing like as if I'm playing in a concert. So it was more like I had to play with him. So Lera, and then he would start some kind of a qaida or something, and then he would throw a variation out, and I would have to respond to it or play it back, and so on. It was more like that, and so most of the practice that I had to do on my own, and then sit with him and try to figure out what was coming at me at breakneck speed, and without breaking my neck, being able to play it back. So simple things like these dha doubles, and then dhagete kridhete development, and then introducing terekete into it will work too. Like and so on and on. So you work all these out. this, it loosens up this area, and then it doesn't necessarily help you with the baya as much, but what it does is it does allow you to understand this and the relationship between closed and open baya, because there is kray that you're playing, and how you place the kray allows you to be able to back and forth quickly. So that will help you when you are playing kaidas. Phrases like those, it'll help you with those. So that is basically what I do with riyaz.